On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
Been better off had they had, do you think that their life was wasted in a situation where they may have been unhappy, but they did have a family and they raised a family? I mean, I'm just wondering, what would have happened if she learned how to drive, she was unhappy, and then she had left? What would have happened to the family after that? So do you think that it's worth it to stay even if you're unhappy, or do you think that your happiness is what needs to be at the forefront?
Me personally, I have a modern mindset, so I'm gonna be a bit biased. But I feel like take my mindset away from it. I didn't talk to older women who, though they didn't regret staying for their family and raising their kids, a lot of them had dreams and aspirations that they wanted to do. Like my grandmother, for example, wanted to be an accountant. She went to a college and graduated and was 4.0 student and all that, and put all that on the back burner to have my four kids.
Laws were in place in the first place is that when we had absolute power, speaking about men, we abused it, right? We often at times left women that did not have the power to be able to earn. They didn't have the power to be able to take care of themselves. They didn't have the power to be able to do some of the same things that they're doing today. And so they needed a safety net for a dude that often at times utilized his power in the wrong way. It was a lot of dudes that didn't hold down the fort. And so as a result, you had to create, because the laws they're reactive. The laws aren't put into place as a result of something that you're doing right already. There is no need for a law then. The laws are reactive. And so you've seen a lot of simps and a lot of busters that did not take care of their family. They left the home. They did what they wanted to do. They got these chicks pregnant, and then they went off and did what they wanted to do. And then they was looking at the chick like, well, why you ain't still respecting me? And so that the law served their purpose for the time by which they were created, in order to give some level of respect to a woman that may have bared a man's child. And she wasn't in that space to where these modern women are today. She was completely submissive, and she was rocking with him, and she was largely whatever it is that he wanted her to be, but he still wanted to have his cake, eat it too, do what he wanted to do, and then hit the streets and say, okay, what'd you say to me? You can't abuse power and then expect for things to go a certain type of way. You have to then abide by whatever it is that you've made a vow to, which is, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make sure you're good for the rest of your life, whatever, so on and so forth. But now we have these archaic laws that don't apply to for the situations in which they were created for. And so that's the dilemma. I think that the dilemma largely lies on the people that created society in the first place. We built it. We let the kingdom fall, and now you see the results of it. You see ashes, and now we're trying to pick up the pieces and say, well, why aren't women moving a certain type of way? Well, because, yeah, they not right today based off of the laws, but largely you dropped the ball earlier in life. And so as a result, what'd you expect them to do? Roll over and die? It was like, okay, we'll skip it. I got to get up. I got to do something.
All right. Everybody else want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Anton, give me a when you say that, this was indicative of men's behavior, what time period are we looking at?
I'm not sure. I can't cite specific time periods, but we know that, for example, I'll give you an example. We know that it's only been a half a century since women been able to vote anyway.
Right.
That's, you know what I'm saying? They had no
right. No. And I'm not disagreeing, because I think, and I just want to add a little bit more context, because I think it's important when we talk about, family court and laws and spousal support and alimony, and why some of these laws were created in divorces and stuff like that. Mr. Palmer talks about how when these laws were created, I think Lee talked about this too, they were created, family court as we know, and in some of these laws that are still on the book, they were created because there were so many men at war and they weren't coming back. They were staying over there creating families, and the women here were being left without any type of support. These women were married. Men went, joined the army, they fought for their country, and they hit them with that Harlem Nights, like, hey kids, put your mom on the phone. I ain't coming home. Right? And so as a result, those laws were put in place to cover those women. Now, I agree with you 1000%. And that's like 40s, 50s, 60s. But I do agree with you when you get to 70s, 80s, especially, after the Vietnam War, as men were coming home and, they're strung out on drugs and all these other different variables that I don't have the research on, so I can't, get into.
See what y'all done created, Kay?
And then to your point, you did have men in that regard, abandoning homes and wives and children. And so the laws that were on the books as we know them had to be enforced in. But I just wanted to add that little bit more context for the people.
Yeah, I definitely agree with y'all boys. I think everything y'all say is 1,000% right, and it contributed to a 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of scenario. That's just what we're dealing with in relationships in general, but especially marriage. Because for one, women are way more empowered than they were, making way more money. So they're not coming in with a whole my livelihood is tied to this man mindset like women of the past did. That's why a lot of them women stayed so long. We were celebrating 50, 60 years of, great grandpa and grandma being married, but we don't really understand the reasoning. They done hated each other for the last 40 of it. But, again, it's a situation of complacency. My livelihood is tied to them. They got people from that era. My great grandma example didn't even know how to drive. Didn't know how to pay bills. Didn't know how to do nothing because he did it all. And then he died at, whatever age he died at and left her here for an extra 15, 20 trying to fend for herself. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole livelihood tie that I feel like women in this era don't worry about. Because when I'm coming in with my own money, okay, this shit don't work, then I'm gonna go get my own apartment. I'm making my own bread. Okay, you do you, I do me. And I'm getting custody of my that's what I was about to get to. And I'm getting custody of my children, and I need child support, and I need alimony. So I got incentive to leave compared to women of the past. So y'all boys 1,000% right with that.
Trill, can I ask a question to you?
Sure.
Because you brought up a good point about the woman, the couple being miserable, but still staying together. And the woman couldn't leave because she was dependent. Right. But what do you think based on your grandmother and so on, our grandmothers, do you think that they would have been better off had they had, do you think that their life was wasted in a situation where they may have been unhappy, but they did have a family and they raised a family? I mean, I'm just wondering, what would have happened if she learned how to drive, she was unhappy, and then she had left? What would have happened to the family after that? So do you think that it's worth it to stay even if you're unhappy, or do you think that your happiness is what needs to be at the forefront?
Me personally, I have a modern mindset, so I'm gonna be a bit biased. But I feel like take my mindset away from it. I done talked to older women who, though they didn't regret staying for their family and raising their kids, a lot of them had dreams and aspirations that they wanted to do. Like my grandmother, for example, wanted to be an accountant. She went to a college and graduated and was 4.0 student and all that, and put all that on the back burner to have her 4 kids.